Before we start this video, a large thank you to Jonathan, David, Glenn, Shiny, Robin, and Leon for their support on Patreon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And also a shout out to Philip for donating to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated, guys. And a special thank you to MIKEHARDIN Games for their immense support this month to the channel on Patreon. Hello guys, so today we're going to continue with our player leveling up screen. So right now, as you can see, I have the menu open, but I'm unable to cycle down through any of the sliders or affect their values because they're not selected when the menu is open. If I were to mouse over them, I could do it that way, but we want to basically select one when the window pops open automatically. This way, if you're using a controller or the keyboard, you can navigate on the menus. So, if we make a script, I'm going to put mine on the health level stat. I'm going to call it select slider on enable. And as the title suggests, we're going to use the on enable method, which is active when the game object is turned to active. And we're going to use that to automatically select this slider when this game object becomes live. So let's start by saying using unityengine.ui, I'm going to open my namespace, which is SG, and erase the start and update functionality as is per tradition. I'm then going to start by making a variable of type slider. I'm going to call it stat slider, and this will be the slider of our health stat. I'm then going to call the onEnable method, and I'm going to make the slider variable public, so I can drag it in the inspector. You can use serialized field if you wish. I'm going to say stat slider dot select, and I'm going to use another line of code, and I'll show you why. I'm going to comment it out just to show you what happens if we don't use this. I'm going to say stat slider dot on select, and I'm going to fill the brackets here with null. Okay. Now, if I don't use this for whatever reason, maybe someone in the comments knows why this happens. I figured out that if you just use select, it does select the button, but for whatever reason, it does not highlight the button or use the highlight effects. And by that I mean it doesn't change the color of something. So check this out. If I start it up, health level is actually selected. If I press down, it goes to stamina, and then stamina is highlighted. And I go back up to health, and then it highlights red. But for whatever reason, it won't highlight to the color of the selection unless you call this after it. Now, I figured this out myself after some trial and error. I'm not exactly sure why this is the case. If someone knows the answer to this and would like to comment below, please do so. But this makes it work. So now if I start the game, as you can see, the health level was selected immediately, and you can scroll down and select the other stats. Okay, so now that we can select our sliders and affect them, we need to write some code to make them basically come in and adjust to the player's stats when he opens the window. So we want to make our player levels match the levels that appear in the UI. So I'm going to start by making a variable of type player stats manager. I'm going to make that public so I can drag it in the inspector. If you want, you can call it through some other means, but this works for the demonstration. So I'm going to then use the onEnable method once again, which again is called when this game object is set to active. I'm going to start by saying the player stats manager dot player level. I don't even think we have that variable made yet. Let me just see. So I'm going to say projected player level is equal to player stats manager dot player level. But I'm thinking we haven't made that yet. Yes, we have not. Okay, so let's go to the base class of the player stats manager, which is the character stats manager. And then let's add a variable. I'm going to make mine an integer, and I'm going to call it player level. You can call yours character level if you want, because every creature in your game is probably going to have a level. Just going to take a sip of tea just a second. So I'm going to change the header to this to stat levels. I'm going to make a new header. I'm going to call this character level. And I'm going to call the variable itself player level because I'm going to be using this for the player. Player level. Okay. I'm going to initialize this at 1. And we're going to make a formula in the next episode to calculate how the player's level is calculated at the start of the game. Dark Souls 3, we're probably going to use that formula. It's pretty straightforward and simple. Okay, come back over here to the level up UI script, and then we can say projected player level equals player stats manager dot player level. Above that, I'm going to say current player level is equal to player stats manager dot player level, and then we have to fill in our text variables. So this is just the variable for the integer value itself. So I'm going to say current player level dot text is equal to player stats manager. Actually, I can make this, I'm going to do this a tiny bit of a different way. I'm just going to use the current player level integer that we have on this script. So I'll show you what I mean. Just erase that. Current player level dot text is equal to current player level. Just make sure you put it after the current player level variable. And we're going to say dot to string, which, as you know, I'm sure by this episode, just changes the value to a string from an integer so you can see it and read it in the UI. Next, I'm going to say projected player level is equal to projected player level toString. So this next bit of the section is going to be a tiny bit repetitive because we need to do this basically in a similar concept to all of the stats that we have. So we have strength, dexterity, faith, intelligence, poise, stamina, health, and focus. So basically we're going to use a slider though. We're going to say health slider.value is equal to player stats manager.health level. And that's because when we open up this UI, we want the slider to automatically be set to the value that the character's stat is currently at. So if you open the level up screen, you have 42 strength. We want the strength slider to start on 42 for obvious reasons. Now do this with every single stat. And we're also going to add a bit more logic onto this because we're going to need to do a few things with the sliders for setup and apply basically a couple of safeguards. For example, we don't want the character to be able to go below the level they're currently at, and we want to set a maximum value on the sliders themselves. And remember, the sliders aren't the UI of the stat that is displayed. So for example, we have two numbers next to each stat, the current level and the projected level. So we're going to make sure the stats slider matches the projected level, and the current level is what the player opens up the screen at. So if you open up the level up screen and you have 42 strength, it's going to say your current strength level is 42. If you raise the stat slider to 55, it's going to say your projected level is 55. And then if you accept that, your strength becomes 55. So right below health slider.value here, I'm just going to say current health level text is equal to player stats manager health level. Alternatively, you could say health slider.value toString if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use the player stats manager.health level and make sure you say .text. I'm going to do the same thing for the stamina and of course the poise and focus and the strength, the dexterity, the intelligence, and the faith. I'm going to take a sip of tea. Let me know how the sound is, by the way, guys. I moved into my new place now, so I'm recording this video, and I'm not going to get a chance to basically post this until Sunday because I don't have internet right now. So next I'm going to say projected health level text equals player stats manager.health level toString, because remember the projected level starts off the same as the player's level and is only changed when you start moving the slider. So this is not enabled, so it's only called once, so we're not changing it yet. We're going to update that when the slider changes values. Okay, so do the same thing basically for all your other stats. So the focus slider is going to need all this logic too. The poise slider, strength, dexterity, intelligence, and faith. But yeah, again, as I go back to that point, let me know how the audio is. I'm in a new room. I have an office now. It's a much bigger space. Very nice. I'm going to do an update video on the other channel very soon too. And I'm going to try to post a couple times this week. Hopefully by the time you're listening to this, I have everything else caught up because I've been so busy with the move. So I have the videos recorded. I just haven't gotten a chance to post them yet. I don't have internet. So this should be up Sunday. If you're listening to this now and it is Sunday or Monday, fantastic. If not, shame on me. Okay, so projected poise, leveled up text, same thing. And then the last four stats, you can see what I mean when I say this gets repetitive. It is the same functionality, but it's across every variable. If you have 12 stats, you have to do this 12 times. I'm just showing you with every single stat, so it's very clear. You can get an idea of how it looks when it's structured nicely, etc., etc. I could just do this with a couple stats, and you would get the logic down, but it seems to be that you guys seem to like when I do things more thoroughly and fully for whatever reason, which is cool. I enjoy doing it too, so that's all good. So I think the plan is for this video now, we're going to basically get a lot of this done in terms of how the stats are placed upon the screen. We're going to make it so we can update them. And then the next video, we're going to finalize the system by basically writing the formulas to decide the character's level, how much it's going to cost to level up, etc., and put some final and finishing touches on them. Okay, projected dexterity level, text equals player stat manager. And by the way, you guys can skip this. If you see the repetitive part, just fast forward if you know what to do. If you don't want to listen to this or watch this, a lot of you would probably understand where I'm going with this right away. And there's no need for you to sit through another 5 minutes of me doing these variables if you know how to do it as well. So current intelligence level .text equals player stats manager, intelligence level toString. And finally and lastly, the faith value is the last we have to do. But we're not done just yet because we still have to add 2 more lines of functionality for each of these stats. As I said, we have to make sure our character is incapable of going below the minimum level. So if you enter at 25 faith, we don't want you to be able to set your faith level to 24 or 23. You can not change it, or you can go up. And we don't want you to exceed the maximum level that you place in the game. I'm going to defaultly set it at 99. You can set it to whatever you wish. So for that to be a thing, we have to make sure that you can't adjust the slider past these values. Luckily, there is a setting for that in Unity, very conveniently enough, to set a slider's minimum value and a slider's maximum value. So for that, we're going to say health slider.minimum value is equal to, well, when you open it up, it's obviously going to be equal to your character's current stat. If your character's health level is 42, then the minimum value becomes 42. So with that logic, the health slider.minimum value becomes the player stats manager.health level. And then I'm just going to say health slider.max value is equal to 99. That is the number I'm going to use for all of the stats. So I'm going to take a sip of tea again. Now, there is another thing I can show you guys. I'm going to put it on the polish list, I'll call it, because it's not key functional gameplay, but in my solo project, I have it so when you change your stats and you level them up, your projected level turns blue. And if you can't level them up that much, like you don't have the amount of souls needed, quote unquote, or experience points needed, every stat will turn red, indicating that you don't have enough to spend, and it won't let you press confirm. I'm not going to apply the color changes in this video, but I am going to apply the logic so you can't confirm unless you have the cost. But if you guys would like to see, this, I guess you could say the UI polish and color transitions and all that stuff in a future video, just let me know if that interests you. Comment down below and I can show you that as well. It's straightforward. It's just a lot of the same thing really, and you're checking for values and numbers, and you're changing colors if you meet those values, and if you don't meet those values, etc., etc. So come down here and do the same thing with dexterity, strength, and then your intelligence and your faith. Again, the minimum value being the stat that you enter at, and the maximum value being 99. I think after this too, we're going to get around to doing the equipping from the inventory. So basically allowing you to equip armor and your weapons from your inventory screen. So we're going to start getting around to doing the UI, because we've been kind of putting off for a long time. We have a lot of core gameplay functionality down now, so let's actually start chipping away at the UI and have it look nice. Have it so you can equip and unequip and drop stuff all from the menus. Okay, almost done. Faith.max value equals 99. Excellent. All right, so save that. And now let's go over into the level up screen, drag in the player, or else none of this is going to work. And as you can see now, if I come into the game, all the stats right there are set to 10. And if you see this now, check this out. I will actually, I'll press play again so you can see it. Watch the value here. You can see if I press right, it actually raises the value of the health stat slider, but it's not changing on the screen. And that's because we're not calling any functionality when the value on the slider is changed to update the UI. So that's what we're going to do next. We have to make some functionality to basically change the values on the UI once the stat slider has changed. So I'm just going to write a comment here now, and we're going to say update all of the stats on the UI to the player's current stats, like so. And then I'm going to make another function here right below it. I'm going to call this, it's a private void by the way, I'm going to call it update projected player's level, or player level. And basically this is going to be called every single time a slider has its values changed, but it's going to be called for another function. So I'm going to say updates the projected player's total level by adding up all the projected levels. And we're going to make an individual function, a public functions for all the stats, like update health slider, update stamina slider, and what it's going to do is it's going to update the slider value and then call this function. So every stat will have its own, and we're going to drag those in on the slider events, and we're going to call that, which will then call this function every time the slider changes its value. So we're going to start by saying projected player level is equal to current player level, because again, it's got to be. We're going to say projected player level equals projected player level plus math f dot round to integer, open the brackets, health slider dot value minus player stats manager dot health level. And this is because you're projected, so every time in Dark Souls you level up a level, it's going to give your player one more level on his total level, okay? Or his soul level. So we take our health slider value, which is our projected level. So if your projected health is 55 and your regular health is 50, then we have a difference of 5. And that means your player's projected level is going up 5. Okay? So same thing as strength. You take strength, your strength level is 30, you raise it 3 stats in the level up screen, it becomes 33. that means you're adding 3 onto your player's projected soul level. So we have to do that with every single stat. So we go projected player level equals projected player level plus mathf.round to int. We do this with stamina and poise, etc., etc. I'm going to take a sip of my tea again. Okay. So we're going to do this with every single stat. So basically, it's just going to take the sum total of all of the stats that you've tried to level up or that you're trying to level up on this menu. So you put 5 into strength, 5 into stamina, that's 10. You put 5 into dexterity, that's 15. You put 2 into faith, that's 17. It's going to take that, come off with a value of 17, and it's going to say your projected player level is going to equal your current player level, basically plus 17. So let's just do this again with every single stat. I'm going to start copying and pasting half this logic because it's there we go, mostly the same. This autocomplete feature in the new Visual Studios, if you guys haven't updated, my goodness, you should do it. It's really good. It saves a lot of time. You press tab, and if it guesses the autofill correctly, it just does it for you. Sometimes it messes up, but I gotta say it's pretty good. All right, and then we're going to just put in the faith here. I think that's the last one. And we have to do one thing after we declare all of this. We have to simply say down here, projected player level text, not current projected player level text. Get my projects mixed up. Always do that. Projected player level text dot text is equal to projected player level dot toString. And that is basically going to change the projected player level to what we just got from that long math equation. Okay, guys, I think that is basically all the time for this episode. I'm going to make the next one, should be at the same length, and we're going to finish up the player level up screen in the next episode, I do believe. We're going to finish up regardless. It might run a little bit longer, but we are going to finish it. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to make this public void update health slider function. This will be called on the health slider every time it's updated. I'm going to say projected health level dot text equals health slider dot value to string, and then I'm going to call update projected player level. And then what you do is you basically use this function every time the health slider is updated, and we do the same thing with all of our stats. Now, we're going to get around to doing that in the next video, and then we're going to finish up by making the formula to basically dictate our player's level, and we're going to make a formula for leveling up costs, etc., etc. But you basically just put it in there, on value change, go to level up, and then we just hit update health slider like that. Okay, if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like. It genuinely helps out my series so much. If you're feeling like a super champion, check out my Patreon below. And don't forget to leave a comment and a like to help appease the YouTube algorithm gods. I will see you guys on the next episode, tongue-tied, where we will finish up our leveling up system.